I wasn't gonna make a video like this, but it's by far my most requested video ever. And people keep making terrible coding tutorials. Also, it's 2024 now. Happy New Year, by the way. So, here it is. The ultimate coding tutorial for 2024. First off, I want you to know that I think YouTube tutorials are terrible, at least for coding. All of them, including this one. But I also want you to know that it's not your fault for not knowing that. You're here because you want to learn a new skill, and an awesome one at that. Coding is freaking incredible, and I fully support your decision to learn it, but I think that pretty much all tutorials for it are terrible. But Maya, I hear you say, isn't having someone explain it to you while they're doing it the best way to learn? Why are there so many tutorials if they're so terrible? Well, think about how YouTube videos go. You have, an all caps clickbait title, and it starts something like, "Hi guys, it's Random Dude here with another video. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I'm gonna teach you React now, but first, look at my sponsor." Their primary objective is not to teach you how to learn, but to generate interactions and make money. And I get that. Honestly, from their perspective, it makes sense. No shade, but it's entertainment, not teaching. This video isn't gonna be like that. I promise you don't have to worry about it being entertaining. But at the end of it, I hope you'll see that learning to code doesn't have to be scary, and it doesn't have to be overwhelming. It should be fun. So, let's talk for a bit about what's wrong with YouTube tutorials. If you've ever tried to look for one, you were probably looking for something like how to make a web app or how to learn React because you heard it was the most popular framework. And I get it. You want to learn to code, you want to be able to do it, and you want the quickest, most painless solution. I want the same if I was you. But the problem is, those tutorials, they don't teach you how to code. They show you how to do something very specific, but they don't teach you how to have fun with it. They focus so much on the right way of doing things, on what might be expected of you in the real world, and there's this expectation that after having watched it, you should know exactly how to replicate what you just saw the dude do, or else you're terrible and stupid. But none of that is true. When you're learning how to code, honestly, the right way of doing things doesn't matter. Because not just is the right way of doing things an incredibly opinionated way of thinking about it, it also restricts you a lot. It keeps you from playing around, from exploring. It disincentivizes from doing things wrong, when, honestly, making silly stuff that no one really needs can be the most fun part of coding. Those tutorials focus so much on the theory of it, on how big corporations structure their incredibly complex projects, and that just ends up overwhelming you with a bunch of information that's just gonna confuse you at first, and it's gonna keep you from having fun with it. To be completely honest, the dev job world is just not in a place anymore where it makes sense to learn it for the money. If you're a junior right now, you know how competitive it is to get a job right now, and unfortunately, I honestly don't think that's gonna get better anytime soon. If you're not a junior and you're considering getting into it for the money alone, then the best advice I can honestly give you is don't. You're no longer guaranteed a job just because you know React. Still, I genuinely believe that there's a way that you can stick out from the many candidates competing with you, that you can still be basically guaranteed a job, or to at least have the patience to hold off until you get one. And that's passion. That's if you genuinely enjoy coding. And that's why I think YouTube tutorials suck so much. They try to sell you a quick fix. Learn this and you'll get a job. They throw stuff at you and maybe it sticks. But they don't teach you how to learn, and they definitely don't teach you how to enjoy it. You don't need to make a to-do app, and you don't need React, and you don't need to think about what's gonna get you a job. Not yet, and maybe not ever. If you feel like you're stuck in tutorial hell, if you feel like you should know more or be better than you are right now, if you feel stuck, if you don't know what to write, then let me say this right now. It's not your fault. You're not stupid, you're not bad. You just haven't been taught how to enjoy coding. So, let's just forget everything you've heard about coding for a moment, okay? I know it can all seem overwhelming and daunting when you have HTML and JavaScript and CSS and React and Vue and Angular and HTMX and Tailwind and a bunch of other made-up sounding names. It seems overwhelming because how could you ever learn all of that? How could you even hope to even start if you have to know all of that? But the truth is, right now, you already have everything you need to get coding. You don't need to know anything at all. Maybe that sounds ridiculous, especially if you've been watching a bunch of tutorials, if you're stuck in tutorial hell right now, but I'm going to show you. The most important part about being a developer and about learning how to be a developer is knowing how to break larger problems into smaller pieces. When you're learning, that means starting with something small enough that you can easily comprehend it, and then adding things to it one at a time. Let's think about the classic learning example of a to-do app with React. Honestly, I think that's a horrible first project. You're gonna need NPM and React, and you'll need something to build it, and you'll need a bunch of things that you're told you don't need to understand right now. To just copy-paste the example and forget it exists, and just ignore all of the complexity of React right now, and just copy what's on the screen, and bam! You're a developer now, and if you're still confused, then that's your fault for being stupid, dummy. Except not. Honestly, no wonder you're confused. How are you supposed to know what you do and don't need to understand? So, let's break that down a bit. The first thing to think about is, how do I run code? If you've never done it before, then that alone might be something you've never thought about. And it's easy. You could Google that, but I'll tell you right now. Right now, do this right now. If you've never run code before, open a new tab in your browser and press F12. And there it is. The most important tool of any web developer, the dev console. You can do this on any website, at any time. Just press F12, and you have a window into its code of any web page. The field you're seeing runs anything you put into it as code. With this alone, you can unironically create entire worlds. And I know, based on everything else you've been told, that probably seems overwhelming again. If you're like me, and you suffer from a bit of decision paralysis, infinite options probably seems, a bit too much. And isn't it dangerous to just run code without knowing what it's doing? Good thinking, but not here. This is your playground. You can do anything in there, and listen really closely for this next part. It's okay if you make mistakes. In fact, I encourage you to. Making mistakes does not make you a terrible programmer. In fact, it makes you a better programmer. I've been doing this for 16 years, and honestly, I make mistakes all the time. I misremember names, I have to look stuff up, and most of all, I just make silly mistakes, and that's okay. I really, genuinely believe there's way too much of a focus on doing things the right way when teaching people to code. But I think that's a terrible way to think about it because there's so many things to explore, and just making silly things and making them badly and doing things your way is so much more fun. The standards, the big frameworks with their complexity, all those things exist for a reason, but you're not gonna understand and appreciate them until you take the time to play around with the basics first. And then maybe, if you think you love this enough to do it as a job, and you end up needing it then, you can still learn it then. If you take just one thing away from this video, I want it to be that. It's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to do things wrong. Don't focus on the right way of doing things. Seriously, when you're learning, there is no wrong way. As long as you're interacting with code, you're learning new things. So let's try it right now. Let's forget everything we know about coding, and let's forget, most of all, about trying to do it right. Let's make a super simple web page. If you don't know how to do that, all you gotta do is make a new file, and name it something.html, put whatever you want into it, save it, and open it in the browser. Let's do that right now. So here it is. We make a new file. We call it something.html. We open it in editor of your choice. And we just put hello world into it. And we save it. And we open it in the browser. And there it is. Hello world. It might not be a finished to-do app, but you've just written code, and no one can take that away from you. But it doesn't do anything yet, does it? That's because it doesn't have any interactivity. Think of the websites you usually visit. Even if they look super advanced, they're still composed of basic elements like buttons, inputs, and yes, text. So let's build upon what we have and make it better. Let's add a button and an input. HTML is pretty straightforward, so we have a button here. Let's make this bigger. And an input here. Save, and bam! A clicky thingy, and the typey thingy. Let's keep making it better though, and let's keep going one step at a time. I think it's pretty obvious what this needs, more purple. But how do we do that? Well, let's ask Google. HTML, button, purple. And, oh, this looks good. I'm just gonna copy paste this. Looks promising. Make this our new button, and we got a purple button. That's a purple button. Now, there are two possible ways we could continue here, and which one you choose is up to you. Remember, you're making your own path. Making things more purple is always a good option. You could try applying the same style to other elements and see what happens. If it doesn't work, Google why not, and you can learn something new. And if it does work, well, congratulations, you learned something new. The other option would be to think a bit more about what we just did. This background color thing looks interesting. That's pretty descriptive, so let's just Google it and see what it is. Quick tip, if you ever see MDN pop up in your search results, click that. That's probably the best documentation you're going to get. So we're going to click this, and background color CSS properties, that's the background color of an element. Sounds interesting. What's CSS though? Cascading style sheets is a style sheet language used to describe the presentation of a document written in HTML. Well, sounds like exactly what we want. We just learned something new. I hope you're starting to see that what I'm trying to teach you here is not how to make a button purple, but how to learn things on your own. And even more importantly, that it's okay to make mistakes and that it's okay to be silly. Make purple buttons, make them explode. In fact, let's do that right now. Let's learn one more thing today. How about we Google HTML button explode? Ooh, what do we have here? Explosive button. That looks, oh, that's so much code though. Well, if you've never done any coding before, you're probably overwhelmed by all of this. And that's okay, because honestly, this is way too complicated. There's so much stuff in here that we don't need. Why? Because we didn't go step by step. We tried to go straight for the solution of making the button explode instead of splitting it up into manageable chunks. Silly us. So, let's close this complicated website for now. Let's get rid of all of that. Ignore everything we just saw. There's no shame in that. If something seems way too complicated to think about for now, you can just ignore it and look for something simpler. That's the great thing about coding. There's always a simple step forward. Let's think about it then. What's an explosion, or better yet, what's the simplest version of an explosion? Well, how about we just make it disappear for now? So, let's Google something simple again. HTML, hide button, when clicked. That should do it, right? Another tip, Stack Overflow, always a good website to go for. Let's try the first result. Let's ignore all of this question here and just copy this and see what happens. And that didn't work. Let's check our trusty dev console, remember? F12. And yep, that's an error. I know what that means, and if you do too, you can fix it. But if you don't, that's okay. You could have a look at the code and try to figure out why it fails. There's not that much there, and I know you can figure it out. But again, there's no shame in moving on, so let's just try another answer. Let's just copy paste this one and see what happens. And the button's gone. It works. From here, it's the same thing again. Either you can spend some more time learning about what you just wrote, or learn how to add more onto it. What really matters is that you're having fun and that you're writing code, which means you're getting better at writing code. Over time, the problems are going to get bigger, but the process is going to stay the same. Break it down into steps you can solve one at a time, and Google whenever you get stuck. Making mistakes and getting stuck is part of the process. It's nothing to be ashamed of. Keep at it, and I promise you'll figure it out. So, honestly, that's about it. If you made it this far, thank you so much for watching, and I hope that this helped you. If you have any questions or feel stuck, I'm always happy to help you on my Twitch stream or in Discord. And honestly, if you watch this entire thing, I really believe that you can do whatever you put your mind to in coding. Happy 2024. I appreciate you.